In this video, we are going to learn about how data is actually modeled, or spatial data is modeled in GIS. So you can see that what is the purpose of GIS is actually it is the conversion of real world components to a computer representation. That is the main the theme of GIS. That is the conversion of real world features to a computer representation. So this is done something like this. So say this is the real world and you are having a map of it. Map is what? Map is actually a pictorial representation of it. Here you can model this in two ways. First one is using raster model, that is by using grids, or you can use vector model. Vector model is using xy plane, xy coordinates. Okay. And then this raster and vector models are represented in raster data structure, that is 0 1 0 1 combination, or in vector data structure, that is xy coordinates form. This way. Okay. Then this is actually stored to a computer. This is how you do represent the real world features in a computer. Okay, first you will have a real world entity there, then you will convert that into a map form, that is called mapping. That was something that we have learned in the previous lecture. Then you are converting it into a model, that is raster model or vector model. And then you will be converting into two data structures, that is raster data structure or vector data structure. Then you will store that in a computer. So that is the real conversion of real world into computer system. So there is actually certain steps that is required for modeling data. So this step, that is converting the real world to a data structure, is called to a data model, is called data modeling. This is called data modeling. So in this data modeling, there is actually mainly 3 steps. Okay, so that is the steps in data modeling. The steps in data modeling include 3 steps mainly. The first one is identification of entities. That is, the entities that are required for modeling are actually identified. Then you have to list out different data models and data structures. That is, listing out data models and data structures. Then you have to model more complex data forms. Or model. So first you have to identify the entities that are present in a data in the real world, and then you have to list out the data models and the data structures available for modeling. Then you have to model more complex forms of data. So these are the 3 steps of it. So first one is called the identification of entities. That is the identification or definition of entities. Definition of entities. So what is definition of entities? Definition of entities means that you are actually defining the entities that are present in the world. Okay, these entities are defined using 3 symbols. The symbols that we have learned in the previous lecture, that is points, lines, and then area. So you are defining the entities using points, lines, or areas. Okay. Then, but you are having certain problems while you define the entities. So what are the problems that you face while listing these or defining these entities? First, main problem is the dynamic nature of real world. That is, see, if you look at the nature, it is always changing, right? The places are changing, or the atmosphere is changing, everything is changing, nothing is static. So if you look at a place, you can see the new buildings are coming, the trees are being cut, or you can see new structures are coming, new road is coming. So you can see that the nature is actually very dynamic in nature, right? So when we have to portray the dynamicity or the dynamic nature of the world while we define the entities. That is, so since the world is dynamic, we have to face certain problems like how to select an entity type. What is the entity type you have to select, and how should we select it? Then how to represent these changes. That is the second problem, how to represent the changes. Next is the perception of area. Perception of area of change, how we should see the area that is changing. Okay, so there are three problems that are mainly faced. First is the how we select the entity type. Second, how should we represent the changes that are happening in the world. Then how should we see that, or how should we look at the changes in an area. The second main problem is the scaling. So what is the scale of it is? Okay. Um, what is the scale of representation, or what should be the scale that we should represent? That is the second problem. And then the final problem is that we have to identify the discrete and continuous object. So what are discrete objects? Discrete objects are actually the objects that are present here and there. For example, a building, a post office, or or something like that. Okay, that is discrete, that are present somewhere. But on the other hand, continuous objects are something like they are continuing. For example, a road or a river or something like that. So we have to identify what objects are discrete and what objects are continuous. Well, this depends upon the scale. That is, if you are viewing, as I've told in the previous session, that is, if you are viewing the entire map of India, then Mumbai is considered as a point in that map. But if you consider the whole of Maharashtra, then Mumbai is actually a state, it's actually a larger place, right? So that is the difference you see. So the main problems affected are, the first one is the dynamic nature of the real world. Then there is scaling, identifying the discrete and continuous values. So these are the main problems that we face while define the entities. Second one, second step is what we have to list out the data models and data structures that we are using. So what are the data models? First we will go for the spatial data models. We will list out the data models that are present. Data models. Okay, so what is actually a data model? See, the computer actually requires an unambiguous instruction on how to use the data about an entity to a graph, or how to convert the data to graphical representation. Okay, so there is actually two modes or two approaches to model the data that we see in real world. These are called as raster models and vector models. So raster data model and vector data model. So in the raster data model, actually we show the objects as discrete entities. And in vector model, we show them as continuous entities or continuous form. Okay, so how we represent data in this raster form? Say we actually, first of all, foremost, we will consider it as a grid, the whole space as a grid. And then what we will do is that we will shade the cells where the data is present. Okay, the cells are being shaded. This is how you represent a raster data model. Okay. So in this raster data model, actually we are facing some problems. Okay. So suppose when the problem comes when we actually use this as a data structure, or when we store this data. See, when we store this data, how will we store the data? Suppose, okay, say like this. This is the how will we store the data? We have to store it something in a file. Okay, so the file will be like the all the shaded portions will be taken as 1 and all the unshaded portions will be taken as 0. So this file will be like 0 1 0 0 0, then 0 1 0 0 0, then 0 0 1 1 0, then you will be having 0 1 0 1 1 0. So this will be the format of what the data file. You can see that the size of the data file is actually quite big, right? This is a big problem because when we see real world maps or real life maps, you can see how big it is. So it takes actually a lot of memory. For this, we have to encode this data. Okay, encode this data. This is the main problem that we face. Okay, because there is this high amount of data that is being produced. For that, we have to encode the data. There are different types of encoding. The first one is run length encoding. So how we perform run length encoding? So we perform run length encoding. So run length encoding is actually performed in some way like this. Okay, so you have to say something like this. The first, if you are taking this data, you can say that it will be like 0, and then there is actually a 1. Okay, sorry, this is not like this. I'm sorry. So the first one is 0, and 0 is repeated for how many times? 1 time, right? So 1. And then now we have got a second thing, that is 1. So 1 is repeated for how many times? 1 time. And then you have 0. 0 is repeated for how many times? 3 times. Okay. Now you have to go to the next line. Similarly 0 1 1 1 and 0 3. Now move to the second line. That is like this. Okay. 0 is repeated for how many times? 2 times. Right. Then 1 is repeated for how many times? 2 times. Right. Then 0 is repeated for 1 time. So this is how you will be representing this using run length encoding. Okay, we will be seeing how many times is actually a 0 or 1 is actually repeated. This is called a run length encoding. Okay, next one is called a block encoding. So in block encoding, what we are doing is that we are dividing the data into blocks. Okay, so let's see this one. We can actually divide this into 2 blocks, right? This block and this block. Okay, all right. So then what we will be giving is that we will be giving a value like horizontal and vertical values, that is 1 2 3 4 5 and 1 2 3 4 5. Okay. Then what we will be doing is that we will be having 3 entities in this. That is, first one is block size, then block number of cells in that, then cell coordinates. Here we will be describing, or we will be showing all the non-empty blocks only. So let's say the first block. What is the block size? Block size is 2, right? Block size is 2. Okay, then how many number of blocks are such blocks are present? Only one block, right? Only one block is present. And then we will show the cell coordinates. What are the cell coordinates present? Okay, what are the cell coordinates present in this? Okay, we will show only one coordinates, that is 1 2. 1 2. Okay, next one is the block sizes. Next is this block. What is the block size? The block size is 4. What is the number of number of blocks such blocks are present? 1 block, right? This is only 1 block. Then what is the cell coordinate? Okay, that is 3 3. Okay, So this is how we represent the data in block encoding. Okay, next one is called chain encoding. Chain encoding. So in chain encoding, what we are doing is that we are only showing the boundary values of this. So if I just remove this, what we are doing in chain encoding is that we are showing only the boundary cells. Okay, so if this is the grid, then what we are showing is only the boundary cells we are showing. Yeah, so this is the boundary cells. So here the problem is we have to show all the cells. If you just redraw this and show like this, okay, then we will be showing it like this, right? Okay, you have to show only the boundary cells. So what are the cells? We have to show only the boundary cells. That is 2 comma 1, then 3 comma 1, then 4 comma 1, then 4 comma 2, 4 comma 3, 4 comma 5, then 5 comma 3, 5 comma 4, then 4 comma 4, then 3 comma 4. So you have to show only the boundary cells. So that is how we do the chain encoding. We will show only the boundary cells. Okay, so next one is also called quadtree encoding. The final one is called quadtree encoding. In quadtree encoding is what we are doing is that if this is the grid, so this is the grid. This is the grid, okay? Let me this part. This is the grid, and these are the shaded region in this. This is the shaded region in this. What we will be doing is that we will be dividing the cell into 4 equal parts. Okay, 4 equal parts. Then we will represent this in a quad tree. That is, if this is the base cell, it will be divided into 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is 1, this is 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so what is, so you can see that 1 is empty, 2 sum is partly empty, right? So what we have to do is we have to divide number 2 again. So this is, there is actually a slight problem in this because we cannot really completely split, but in real life it will be completely splittable. Okay, so if I just redraw this, if I just kind of be like this, okay, so that we can completely split it. Okay, so if I can now completely split this, and if I split it like this, this will be again be splitted into 4. So this is 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 and 2.4. Okay, we will be splitting the number 2 cells. So this is the number 2 cells. So let's represent like this, and we will be splitting into 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. You can see that 2.1 is empty, 2.2 is empty, 2.3 is not empty, right? So we will be showing like this. 2.3 is not empty, 2.4 is not empty. Okay. So 2.3 we will divide again into 4. We will be again dividing this into 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 2.3.1, 2.3.2, 2.3.3, 2.3.4, right? So this is this is only the non-empty part here. Okay, this is how you represent it. Again, we will represent the upper one here like this. We'll be dividing this into 4. Only the fourth one is non-empty. So we'll shade that. Okay. Again, we will do with the fourth one. We'll again divide this into 4. Okay. So that we will again do this. So this is how you represent a quad tree. So this is quad tree encoding. So what are the different types of encoding? The first one is run length encoding. And second one is block encoding. Then chain encoding and quad tree encoding. So these are the different types of encoding that we see. Now we will go for vector data structure or vector form of representation. So in vector form of representation, we will be showing this whole thing in the form of vectors or as a collection of coordinates. Okay, we will be showing the whole thing as a collection of coordinates. For example, if you are showing a polygon like this is a polygon. We have 4 points here, right? Say like these are 0, 0, 0, 20, 20, 30, then 20, 0. The basic representation is what we use by using a spaghetti file. Just show it as a spaghetti file. Okay. What is spaghetti file means that you will just simply show the xy coordinates in this. This is x and this is y. Then you have 0, 0, 0, 20, 20, 30 and 20, 0. So these are the xy coordinates. This is called as a spaghetti representation or a symbol representation. But there are some limitations for this. So what are the limitations of vector data type? Vector. The limitations are, the first one is that the boundary line, if a line, if suppose if this is the thing and these two lines, if you say this coordinates, the lines are actually shared between two polygons, right? So if you are showing this in a spaghetti form, what will happen is that there will be a repetition of boundaries. So you have to show, you have to do this in twice. We have to represent the same nodes twice. So this will cause repetition of this. This is not a problem if the image is very small, but you can see that in real life the maps and everything is actually very big. So in such cases, the repetition of boundary can cause a lot of loss of data, or you can see a lot of memory mismanagement. It can cause a lot of excess memory usage. Okay. Then second one is that we are not really showing the linkage of lines. How two lines are linked, this is not really shown. So what is the problem here? Okay, what is really the problem here? Okay, so suppose imagine that the whole map is just like a noodles on a plate. Yeah, actually showing the noodles of a plate. Okay. Okay, you're actually showing the noodles on the plate and you're trying to trace it. Okay. Now if you're tracing it, you will be drawing the whole thing here, you know where are the points are, everything is there. So suppose the plate is actually dropped down. Okay, it will be very difficult for you to reconstruct it. അതായത് നിങ്ങൾ ഈ നൂഡിൽസ് എല്ലാം കൂടെ തിരിച്ച് പറക്കി ഇട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാലുള്ള പ്രശ്നം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ സെയിം പോയിൻറ്റ്സ് തന്നെ ടച്ച് ചെയ്തിരിക്കണം എന്നില്ല. മനസ്സിലായോ? അതായത് നമ്മളൊരു ലൈൻ ഇവിടെ ഷോ ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് ഷോ ചെയ്യുന്നത്, പക്ഷേ ഇതിന് ഇവിടെ ഒരു ബെൻഡ് ഉണ്ടെന്നുള്ള കാര്യം നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നില്ല. അതാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഒരു കുഴപ്പം. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ സപ്പോസ് ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ നൂഡിൽസിന് പകരം നൂലാണ് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചോളൂ. ആൻഡ് ഈ പോയിൻറ്റ്സ് വരുന്നിടത്തൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ഓരോ കെട്ടിട്ട് വയ്ക്കുവാണെന്ന് വെച്ചോ. ഓക്കെ, അതായത് ഈ പറയുന്ന ടച്ചിങ് വരുന്നിടത്തൊക്കെ നമ്മളൊരു കെട്ടിടുവാന്ന് വെച്ചോ. അപ്പം നമുക്ക് എന്ത് പറ്റുമോ, നമുക്കിത് കറക്റ്റായിട്ട് റീകൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. തറയിൽ പോയാൽ നമുക്ക് അതുപോലെ എടുത്ത് വയ്ക്കാൻ ഒക്കും. സോ അതാണ് നമ്മൾ മാപ്പിൽ വി ഹാവ് ടു ഗിവ് മോർ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ടു വാട്ട്, യു ഹാവ് ടു ഗിവ് മോർ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ടു ലിങ്ക്സ്. അതായത് യു ഹാവ് ബന്ധങ്ങൾ തമ്മിലാണ് നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് കൊടുക്കേണ്ടത്, നോട്ട് സിംപ്ലി ഓൺ ദ കോർഡിനേറ്റ്സ്. യു ഹാവ് ടു ഗിവ് മോർ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ടു ലിങ്കേജ്. And then the third problem is that the problem of island polygon. What is the problem of island polygon? Suppose a polygon is inside another polygon. Okay. If this is a park, this is the whole thing is a park, and you are actually showing a kind of a fountain in middle of the park. So this fountain will be called as the island polygon. So in vector graphics, it is actually very difficult, in vector data model, it is actually very difficult to show that a polygon is actually inside another polygon. ഒരു polygon നകത്താണ് അടുത്ത polygon എന്ന് പറയാൻ വലിയ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. That is called as island polygon. Okay, so that is island polygon. How will you solve all these problems? This is done using something called as a point dictionary. So in point dictionary, instead of just showing the whole thing like this or like a spaghetti file xy coordinates, what we will be showing is that we will be having two dictionaries. First one is a point dictionary and second one is a polygon dictionary. So in point dictionary, you will be showing the xy coordinates. So x, y coordinates 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 1, all these things you will be showing, and then you will be assigning an id for this, that is 1 2 1 2, like that. Then you will have a polygon dictionary. Similarly, polygon dictionary will be having an id and they will be showing the points there. So suppose the first polygon is cars. Okay, and you will be giving the id number 1 2 3 4, like say 1 2 3 4, and then cars, then you're saving staff, then you'll be saying 2 1 1 1, then you say bus 3 1 1 2. So you will be giving what? The id, and we will be giving a pointer to the point dictionary. We will also be giving a pointer to the point dictionary. ഇപ്പോൾ ഇതിനകത്തുള്ള ഗുണം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, നമുക്കിപ്പം ഈ രണ്ട് ഒരു കാറും കൂടെ ഒരുമിച്ച് കിടക്കുവാന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മൾക്ക് ഈ ബൗണ്ടറി ഷോ ചെയ്യാൻ എളുപ്പമാണ്. അതായത് ഒരേ പോയിന്റർ കൊടുത്താൽ മതി, 1 2 കൊടുത്താൽ മതി. ഇപ്പം 1 2 2 1 ഒരിടത്ത് തന്നെ ഷെയർ ചെയ്ത് തന്നില്ലേ, അതായത് ഈ ബൗണ്ടറി ഷെയറിങ് ആണ് എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥം. മനസ്സിലായോ? സോ അതാണ് നമ്മൾ പോയിന്റ് ഡിക്ഷണറി ആൻഡ് പോളിഗൺ ഡിക്ഷണറി വെച്ച് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്. സോ വാട്ട് ആർ ദ ലിമിറ്റേഷൻസ് ഓഫ് vector modeling? So first one is there is a repetition of boundary. We cannot really represent boundaries. If there is actually a repetition of boundary, we have to store each of these points twice. That is, and second one is there is a linkage is different. Linkage of lines. This linkage of lines is actually very difficult to show. Then you can see there is the island polygon problem. That is, it is difficult to show a polygon that is inside another polygon. So how is this solved? This is solved using a point dictionary and a polygon dictionary. So what we have learned until now? So we have learned about what is spatial data modeling and what are the different types of models that can be used, that is vector model and raster model, and how can they be shown. They can be stored using a vector data structure and a raster data structure. And we have discussed the problems of data modeling for the raster model and the vector model. So thank you.